Now, decimals are like money. Every digit matters. Now, let's learn how to multiply like pros. Do you know that knowing how to multiply decimals can actually save you a lot of money? In short, it can make you very rich. I know, that's funny, right? Now, let's dive into multiplication of decimals. Now, there are three basic things to note when we're multiplying decimals. The first is, while you're multiplying, ignore the decimal point as though it weren't there. And then the second thing is, once you are done multiplying, count all the decimal places in the question. And then finally, put those decimal places, indicate those decimal places in the answers accordingly. So that means that when you've counted and you have 2 decimal places in your question, you must count out 2 decimal places in your answer. And that's how easy it is. Now let's dive into a few questions, all right? Now the first very simple question that we're going to be looking at is 0.5 times 2. Now remember, we do this as if we are multiplying whole numbers. So 0.5 times 2. 2 times 5 is 10, 0, I will carry 1 there. 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. So my answer looks like it's 10, right? No. Now that we've multiplied 0.5 times 2, it looks like our answer is 10, right? Absolutely not. Remember, you must count out the decimal places in your question and indicate it in your answer. Now let's look at this question. 2 doesn't have any decimal places, but this number has 1 decimal place. And so we must indicate that decimal place in our answer, counting from the right. 1. Now, our answer to 0.5 times 2 is 1 or 1.0. Same thing. Now let's look at another question. 2.5 times 2.2. Remember, first rule, ignore the decimal point and multiply this as 2 digits by 2 digits. So we're going to start here. 2 times 5 is 10. 0, carry 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus that 1 is 5. Now it's time to use this 2. Remember, because I'm using this 2, under here I must put a placeholder, which is 0. Now I start. 5 times 2 is 10, 0, and I carry 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus that 1 is 5. Now we add. 0 plus 0 is 0, 5 plus 0 is 5, and 5 plus nothing is 5. So my answer kind of looks like 550, right? I must count my decimal places. Now 2.5 has 1 decimal place and 2.2 has 1 decimal place. The decimal place refers to the numbers after the decimal point. Now, so in all of our questions, we have 2 decimal places. We must indicate those 2 decimal places in our answers, starting from here and counting backwards. So 1, 2, that is where my decimal point is going to be. So that means that my question 2.5 times 2.2 is 5.5. That is the answer. Now let's look at 2 more very interesting questions, shall we? (12.5) times 0.3. Now let's look at this. Remember, ignore the decimal points and do your multiplication. 3 times 5 is 15. 5, I'll carry 1. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. 3 times 1 is 3. Now, let's look at this. 0. Put a placeholder here and then multiply. 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 times 1 is 0. Now, even if we add this up, I'm going to end up with 375. But hold up. Did I count my decimal places? No, I didn't. It is time to do that. Now, 12.5, I have one decimal place here, meaning I have one number after the decimal point. 0.3, I also have one decimal place here after the decimal point. That means that in my entire question, I have two decimal places. I must indicate my two decimal places in my answers, starting from here. Oh, 1, 2. So my 12.5 times 0.3 is 3.75. That is my answer. Now we have one more question to do. 6.31 times 4.08. This looks like a very interesting question. We are multiplying. Now we start from here. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. 4, I'm going to carry 2. 8 times 6 is 48. Plus 2 is 50. Now let's start with 0. For 0, I'm going to put one placeholder here. 0 times 1 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. 0 times 6 is 0. Now we're going to use 4. Now remember, 4 is the third number we're using, so I'm going to put two placeholders under here and then start with 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12, which is 2. I would carry 1. 4 times 6 is 24, plus the 1 I carried, 25. Now let us add. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 0 is 4. 4 plus 0 is 4. 5 plus 2 is 7. 5 plus nothing is 5. And 2 plus nothing is 2. Now that looks like we are ending up with 257,448. What did I forget? Yep, that's right. I forgot my decimal places. Now in 6.31, I have two numbers after my decimal point, meaning I have two decimal places. In 4.08, I have two numbers after my decimal point, meaning I have another two decimal places here. So altogether in my entire question, I have 4 decimal places. I must indicate those 4 decimal places in my answer, starting from here. So let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6.31 times 4.08 is equal to 25.7448. Voila. And that's how you do your decimal multiplication. As long as you know how to multiply whole numbers, don't forget to count out your decimal places in the question and indicate them in your answers. And you're home and dry. Hope you learned something today. Bye.
I am learning with I Am Learning Hub.